yoga is the realization that we're all connected as one family.
That's right.
A family in love. The same way that a young mother treats a young baby. That's what yoga is. If everyone treated each other like a mother treats the baby, the world would be a nice place.
Namaste, welcome to another edition of Meditate with Anjaan, and I'm really honored and privileged to have this legend in the yoga world with us today. Not only has he been practicing for more than 4 decades, he's also been teaching for more than 3 decades, right? And he combines his knowledge of anatomy, of physiology, of traditional hatha yoga, and modern day scientific practices to really share the true knowledge of yoga in a very fun, entertaining, educational way. And his perspectives are so unique. Sometimes it takes you to sit down and really listen to him, try to understand the depth of what he's saying. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody who's truly paving the path for how yoga looks in the world today, Simon Borg-Olivier. Thank you so much for this interview opportunity.
Anjaan, thank you very, very much, and thank you everyone for your interest. It's a pleasure to be here.
I was sharing with Simon that I've launched Meditate with Anjaan, which is the journey to meditate with 1 million people, and committed to meditating with at least one person per day. And so, Simon, maybe towards the end of this interview, you can, meditate with me.
Okay, good.
Let's start with asking Simon, what are your ideas on meditation, and what is your personal meditation practice?
Okay, well, I think that people misunderstand meditation in the modern world. Like if you see someone, say on Instagram, and they're just sitting like this, people will think it's meditation. But if you see someone balancing on one hand or bending backwards, they call that yoga.
That's right.
But to me, meditation and yoga are the same thing.
That's right.
And when you're really in yoga, you're meditating.
Absolutely.
So I don't perceive the difference myself. But then when we ask what is meditation, we can look at it on a physical, physiological, and mental level. And I think that physically, people often think that meditation is something which is static, but I believe it can also be a dynamic meditation. You don't have to be in one position to do it. But physiologically, there are a few key factors which not everyone appreciates. And mentally, there's a few things which not everyone appreciates. So maybe I can summarize what my understanding of the meditative state on a physical, physiological, mental level. One is that if you're going to experience the meditative state, I think it has to be something which is sustainable. Really, it's going to be difficult to experience meditation if it only lasts for 1 second or 10 seconds or 1 or 2 minutes. So I want a practice that's going to be effective as a meditation to be something which is sustainable.
Which you can take with you along the day.
Along the day, or at least, if you know you're going to meditate for 1 hour, whatever activity you're doing has to be sustainable.
That's right.
So for example, if it is a stationary meditation and you choose the lotus posture to sit in, it's not much good if after 10 minutes you're going, my knees, my knees, my knees, my back. And this is often what happens. People suffer because they pick positions to sit in which are too difficult. And I think in the sutras of Patanjali, they talk about sthira sukham asanam as being the main preparatory physical aspect for your meditative practice. So you want to be, I can loosely translate sthira sukham asanam as being whatever physical activity you're doing, you want to be firm but calm, something like this. So for most Westerners, I believe, when I say Westerners, it could also be Indian people in the modern world. For most modern adults, a stationary posture to meditate in needs to be comfortable, and I don't think most people sitting cross-legged is going to work.
Yeah.
Better off, I think, sitting on a chair, even though chairs cause so many problems in our life. If you are going to meditate and you want to be relaxed, sitting is probably better on a chair than on the floor for most people.
That's right.
Standing meditations, I think, are also very good, but for many people they're a bit exhausting. I don't think lying down is a good place to meditate because you drift off too easily. And I think it's good to have your spine unsupported if possible, so leaning back on a chair won't have as much good benefits. But my preference is to meditate, when I say my preference, if I'm trying to share meditation practices with other people, I think you get a much better result if you teach people to meditate when they're moving.
That's right.
I think people get a better result.
Absolutely. Like in the Japanese Zen monasteries, when I visit, we have something called kinhin, which is interspersed with zazen, which is seated meditation, immovable seated meditation. And kinhin is walking meditation, where you're simply aware of every single step and every single moment that you're stepping in.
Yes.
And that's truly meditative, because we intersperse that with the zazen so that the legs don't pain.
Otherwise, for many people, you get problems in your knees or your hips or your back. Now, whatever activity you choose to do, your meditative activity, that's the first thing. It needs to be a sustainable activity or a sustainable posture. It's got to be sustainable on all levels, physically, physiologically, and mentally. Because physiologically means things like nerve function, blood flow, organ function, the heart, etc. Mentally means it's got to be able to be tolerable, because say something looks easy, but it's excruciatingly painful, the mind often is the limiting factor. It's not so much the physical. So all levels, physical, physiologically, mentally, it has to be sustainable. The second thing, it has to be engaging. So engaging means you have to feel like you're in the present moment, not drifting off to past and future generally, and you want to be sensing that you're connected. And they've done some interesting studies on meditation, but the studies were brought to light by the studies in the last 10 years on psychedelic drugs.
That's right.
Very recently, when they're studying psychedelic drugs, they found that when they did brain scans on people on psychedelics, which were done in places like Johns Hopkins University in the United States, they found the most surprising thing was that the brains of people on psychedelic drugs appeared to do the exact opposite of what people suspected. Many people think that on psychedelics you're going to have so many things going on in your head, because it feels like that. But what seems to happen is the brain, or part of the brain, seems to shut down. And the part of the brain that shuts down is actually spread throughout the whole physical brain, but it's called the default center. And that default center is the place where you time travel, you go into past and future. So maybe you're waiting for a bus, and you're not sure if the bus is coming in 30 seconds or 30 minutes, so you don't get out a book, you don't start doing an activity, you've got to be prepared in case the bus comes. And at that time, the brain might suddenly start thinking of, what did I do yesterday, what do I have to do tomorrow? That part of the brain switches off. So your time traveling center switches off, and you're stuck in the present moment.
So you cut off your imagination, you cut off your memory, you can be in the present.
Projecting and past go, you're in the present moment.
Beautiful.
And then the other thing that switches off is the center that makes you relate to how you compare to other people.
Identity,
the ego center.
That's
that
right.
seems to switch off. No longer do you think of yourself as disconnected to everything else.
Right.
You are totally connected.
That's right.
And so this place, which people on psychedelics experience, they said they've only ever seen this place in people who do profound and proficient meditation. So the meditative state seems to be one where you are totally in the present moment, apparently connected to everything. It seems like there's always that state of subject and object being one. And so this I'll call engagement. And so the first thing about meditation is it's sustainable. Second thing, it's engaging. The third thing is it has to be invigorating. Invigorating means for me that you want to feel alive and connected within your body. And so you want to really, on a physiological level, have blood flow going through your whole body. So often people think that meditation is just sitting still and that's it. But most people in the West, say, for example, in northern Germany or northern Europe, in the summertime, they're fine. But in the wintertime, when it gets cold, you get very cold meditating. You have to cover yourself with blankets, otherwise you start to shiver. Whereas the meditative yogi on Mount Kailash in northern India,
he's regulating his internal thermostat anyway to stay warm.
Yes, it's just they're naked in the snow.
Yeah.
So if they're naked in the snow, it means their blood is flowing very well. You have to have good circulation when you're meditating. And many people forget this. So invigoration for me means that you've got good circulation flowing. But the fourth thing is you've got to be calm. And calm, I won't just say totally in a state of parasympathetic arousal, but you want to have a very balanced autonomic or automatic nervous system where your parasympathetic nervous system dominates. That's the rest, rejuvenation, relaxation response. And your sympathetic nervous system is only quite low level. In other words, you're not having the heart racing, you're not panting, you're not having adrenaline, stuff like this pumping through your system. You feel comparatively calm and relaxed.
And your cells are in a state of homeostasis.
Yes. And your blood, however, your blood is flowing.
Flowing.
For most people, when their blood flows, it's associated with heart racing. But what you really want is blood flowing with heart rate low and breath rate low. So this fourth thing then is that you're essentially very, very calm. So you've got an activity which is sustainable, invigorating, very calming, and very engaging. And the last thing is that it's effortless. You want to feel like whatever you're doing, it's not taking effort. It's not something where you're going to feel that you have to stop soon.
That's
So
right.
I think in the Sutras of Patanjali, right after it says Sthira Sukham Asanam, it says you want to make sure now that this thing that you're doing feels like it's effortless.
That's right.
And then it says all dualities will cease, and now you can begin the next stage of yoga, which is pranayama.
Beautiful.
And eventually pranayama is something where you're not breathing at all.
That's right.
And so you find eventually in meditative state that not only you're not breathing much, you sort of look down, you go, gee, I don't think I've breathed for ages.
That's right.
And so this, I think, on a physiological, physical, mental level is something we can do and call meditation. But you don't need to be still. You can do it while you're moving, you can do it while you're stationary, you can do it things like walking, dancing, posture.
It's amazing that you touch psychedelics, because from ayahuasca or even psilocybin or many of the other, prescribed psychedelics, you realize that the same flush of DMT, which researchers now show that meditation gives you, has the same effect, just like you're saying. But the only difference I find is that through meditation, the flush happens after a few days, whereas through engaged substances, which are external, maybe the flush happens in a few hours. And
I think a good meditator could probably get it happening in a few seconds.
no, I mean, it stays.
It stays.
It stays. I mean, say the DMT flushes away from your system very quickly with external substances.
I see.
Whereas
But
with meditation, it
will stay
stays for
Yes.
days.
Oh,
That's what I
yes,
feel.
yes. I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's true. And I totally agree.
I also wanted to ask you about this, since you mentioned about reducing the heart rate and reducing the breath. There's this most famous video of Simon on YouTube where you've reduced your heart rate tremendously, and they had you connected to an ECG, and it's going beep 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 beep.
Yes, I think in that particular one, I started with my heartbeat at 88 beats.
That's right.
And then it went down to about 32 beats within about 45 seconds. And I was just basically doing a meditative technique where I'm just sitting still and relaxed, and I pretty much stopped breathing, I think.
So actually, I want to address all the skeptics out there who are saying that it's not possible. And I've seen it with many yogis. I've seen it with my grandfather. I've seen it with these Naga Babas who I was hanging out with in Dharamshala. I've seen it with you on your YouTube video, and Wim Hof, and your friend, the gentleman who does the free diving. I don't know.
Oh yes, William Trubridge. Amazing, yes.
I've seen this happen with so many humans, so I know it's possible.
Yes, yes.
For all the skeptics,
I'm average.
what do you have to say?
Look, basically, it's very possible. You can control your heartbeat. I have had several teachers who can stop their heart, but when they've been put on ECGs, what seems to happen is what they are doing when they apparently stop their pulse. I can stop my pulse, that's easy to do, but they're stopping their heartbeat. But when you actually measure it, what you find is the heart no longer functions as a pumping device, but rather it goes into a fibrillation. So it's actually beating at about 300 beats per minute. Essentially, they put themselves into a heart attack.
Wow.
But it's a controlled heart attack that they're able to come out of. But because the heart's fluttering so quickly, it doesn't pump blood. So it looks like there's no beat. But essentially that's what they've done. But it's pretty impressive to do that. One of the teachers who showed me that first, his name is Bimdev, Professor Bimdev.
Bimdev.
He lives in Australia at the moment, and he's a very wonderful man. I think he's in his late 70s now. He said he stopped doing it. And I said, why'd you stop? He said, because my doctor said it may not be good for me. I'm going, are you kidding? Definitely, it doesn't sound good for you. But he's able to do it at will. And I think Krishnamacharya was...
Is it easy to learn?
That particular technique is not something that you would recommend to most people. That particular technique is potentially quite dangerous. You have to know exactly what you're doing, and it has to be taught by a serious, good teacher.
Kids, don't try this at home.
Don't try that at home. But stopping the pulse, you can learn very simply that just by tightening your armpit the right way, and you can stop your pulse, which is a good party trick if you want to do that.
I actually wanted to ask Simon about his ideas on how yoga is evolving in the world today. Every day we're seeing new things coming up, like goat yoga and bear yoga and rabbit yoga, and of course there's the other fusion versions of acro yoga and yin yoga and water yoga and stuff. But there's also an entire traditionalist movement happening again, where the traditional teachings of, say, Patanjali or Krishnamacharya, or even older texts from the Upanishads are now resurfacing, and people are reading that and saying, okay, this is yoga. Though I'm of the opinion that there is no one yoga, and it is what suits you and how you allow it to transform yourself. I wanted to find out, what are your thoughts on it? Because you're at the forefront of sharing with the world what it could possibly do and how it could transform your life, keep you healthy, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Okay. Look, I have no problems with any style that has the word yoga in it, as long as it has good effects. And so it's not the style that's the problem, it's just sometimes people teach when they're not really ready to teach, and sometimes that can cause problems to others, and sometimes people as students will attempt things that maybe they're not ready for either. And so any technique is not right or wrong, it's just, is it appropriate for the situation? And so I won't judge or denigrate any style, but maybe not everyone is suited to every style, and not every teacher of every style really knows what they're teaching. And it's like you're dealing with people's physiology, you're dealing with people's physical body, you're dealing with people's mental body. And some teachers will say, come to my class, I can help you with knee problems, I can help you strengthen your back or fix up your back. But really, if you've got a back problem, maybe go see a physiotherapist. Someone who's studied at university and understands the human body. They might have spent 4 or 5 years of university studying anatomy. And some yoga teachers will say that if you've got like a digestive dysfunction or reproductive dysfunction, maybe come to the yoga class, it might help you. But yes, they could help you, but maybe also you might get help, maybe better help, if you went to a doctor. Someone who's done 6 years of university study and then also did 6 years of postgraduate, maybe they might be in a better place to actually help you. Similarly, if you've got like a mental problem that may be overstressed or depressed or whatever, maybe a yoga teacher might be able to help you, but maybe you'd also get maybe good help from someone who's spent psychologist who spent 6 to 12 years studying. But in the modern world, what we're seeing is people who maybe are thought of as someone who can help you on a physical, physiological, mental level, who
they don't have the capability.
How can you possibly learn to help someone physically, physiologically, mentally with a 200-hour teacher training course? Please come to me. I can be a doctor, physiotherapist, and psychiatrist. I need to practice on you. I've just finished my 200-hour doctor, physiotherapy, and psychiatry training. I mean, most doctors or physiotherapists or psychiatrists would be really affronted if you said you could do their job having learned, do all 3 of their jobs, having learned for 200 hours. So it's not that I'm against modern styles, but how much have people learned? And have they actually learned how to do it for themselves before teaching it to other people?
That's right.
I feel like a beginner in most of the things that I do, and I'm just beginning to understand a lot of things, and I'm prepared to share what I can do, but I know that my teachers know a lot more than I do.
Absolutely.
You're very flattering to me, but I don't think I know as much as you.
No, I say this to my students. I say, I'm a beginner. I just began before you. So just like that, when Simon says he's a beginner, he just began before all of us.
No, because I still revere my teachers. Every teacher I've had who is still alive, they actually know a lot more than I do, and they practice at a much higher level than I do. And I don't, with some of them, I don't think I'm ever going to reach their level in this life. But we share what we can share.
No, this is your humility and your humbleness also speaking.
The truth.
Because you are a treasure of knowledge, and which is what I wanted to ask you about. You've mentioned that yoga is more than stretching and relaxing your muscles. And I've been trying to share with all my friends and all my students how the physical aspect of yoga is only one part of what this beautiful art and science is. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, look, just with respect to stretching, for example, if you feel a stretch while you're doing it, usually that's the not yoga. Because as soon as you feel a stretch, usually that sensation of stretch is the step just before pain, which is the step just before injury. And often what people are experiencing as stretch is not a lengthened muscle, it's a lengthened muscle that became tense via a stretch reflex.
Right.
And the stretch reflex is part of your autonomic nervous system, which relates to your flight or fight response. So the flight or fight response protects you from external threats. And when this happens, the problem is that your nervous system is stressed and you no longer look towards longevity, the health of your immune system, digestive system, reproductive system. These things turn off and your protective response turns on, and it's the protection for fear from the external environment. Your dominant emotions become fear, anger, aggression, lack of safety, which are the opposite of what I think yoga is. So often the sensation of stretch will trigger a flight or fight response. And on a physiological level, that's not what we want for longevity. That's to protect you for here and now. Similarly, if you feel tension inside your body, then that also triggers a flight or fight response. If you feel heart rate increase and breath rate increase, that's probably also going to trigger a flight or fight response. What we want is a parasympathetic or rest, rejuvenation, relaxation response. And that, to get that, often if I say to people, tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less, they'll go, well, what are you going to do then? And I go, no, I'm not saying do nothing. I'm saying, can you find a way of becoming more flexible without the feeling of stretch? A way of becoming stronger without feeling tense? A way of becoming better blood flow without your heart racing? A way of getting better energy without having to breathe so much? A way of becoming more intelligent without having to think so much? A way of becoming more relaxed without having to lie on your back to do it?
That's right.
A way of getting more nutrition without having to eat so much. And when you say that to people, they go, how can you do those things? They're two opposing things. And they say, well, yoga is the resolution or the yoga, the joining between two opposing ideas, such as ha and ta. When you resolve the paradox, that's the yoga. So I have found within myself and through the grace of the teachings I've been given, ways of developing flexibility where I'm not feeling stretch, ways of getting stronger while I'm not feeling tense, ways of getting better blood flow without my heart racing. And all these things seem impossible, but when you can actually feel them within yourself and demonstrate them to others, then
once you experience, the doubt goes away.
The doubt goes away, exactly. And so part of the teaching that I do is actually demonstrating this to people, giving them the way of doing an exercise, which is the way they normally do, and then showing them another way and showing how, that was really easy to do. How effortless it was. Doing the same exercise, but in a way where it didn't feel stretchy or didn't feel tense, or suddenly doing the same exercise, but you feel really warm, yet your heart's hardly racing.
Right.
It is possible. It is possible. And the first step of this I call saucha. Saucha in the philosophy of yoga,
or keeping things clean.
Well, I think of it not so much cleanliness, it's the way to get rid of the things that normally block yoga inside your body.
Like an internal purification.
Yes. So if I define yoga in the way I'd like to define it, I mean, different definitions, but one I like to define is that yoga is the realization that our individual consciousness is one with the universal consciousness, which sounds all lofty. I think a nicer way of saying it is yoga is the realization that we're all connected as one family.
That's right.
A family in love, the same way that a young mother treats a young baby. That's what yoga is. If everyone treated each other like a mother treats the baby, the world would be a nice place.
Right.
But I don't think anyone's going to even approach this until you get it inside yourself. So for me, personal, physical yoga is when I recognize that each of my 50 trillion individual cells treats every other cell the same way a mother treats a young baby, which is this way of connection, a sense that they're connected as one. And to do that is actually not easy if you're doing most normal exercise. But if you do it in the right way, it starts to happen. And when it happens within yourself, it's a message you can send to other people. But what prevents this from happening is the things we have to get rid of. Well,
the conditioned responses.
What I was going to say is that on a physiological level then, what I want to make this happen is I want to create a situation in my body where circulation moves very, very easily at the same time that the parasympathetic nervous system dominates. And that sounds scientific. If I say it loosely, I can say what I want within my body is to make good energy circulate within my body and lots of loving information.
That's right.
But that sounds soppy, that sounds hippy-dippy. So I say it again scientifically. What I want within my body is to have good circulation happening, good cardiopulmonary system, at the same time as a good balanced autonomic nervous system. Then it sounds scientific.
Yes.
But again, in English, I want good energy and loving information to circulate through my body. And when I make that message within myself, I'll share it with other people. And if everyone shared good energy and loving information, that would be good yoga.
The ideal, optimum world.
That would be good yoga. But what stops good energy and loving information going through the body is 5 things. Too much tension, too much stretching, or bad inappropriate postures or unbalanced postures, too much breathing, too much thinking, too much eating. So I give the motto, tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less, and I call this saucha, because they're the things that block yoga. Then I say the next thing we have to do is make the energy and the good information, loving energy, good information, good energy, loving information move through the body. And for that, you need to use and apply principles that will get the blood flowing without the heart racing. And the heart is only one of 12 ways that you can move blood through the body. There are 11 other ways, and although we could go into long, detailed explanations of how to do them. The next video, the simplest way of doing it is to begin a practice in the most traditional way. And the most traditional way that Indian yogis would say, put the leg behind the head, is just to lift the leg goes behind the head. Most modern people can't put their leg behind the head like that. They pull and they yank, but the pulling, the yanking causes stress.
Yes.
So how about make a lot of simple movements where you just move actively and take the body into positions using your own active movements, like we cross our arms. Just do everything simply with your own muscles. Don't collapse into postures. Don't use
don't force yourself into postures.
Don't force yourself into postures. Just move only as far as the body goes by themselves. That's the simplest first approach. Always move from your core. Don't just lock your core, move from your core. Don't force fancy breathing in the beginning, just breathe naturally. Move fluidly. I summarize it by saying move actively, move from your core, breathe naturally, move fluidly as a good first steps for beginners. Then later on, once you've understood all that, then you can add all the difficult things that most people do in yoga classes. But most yoga is taught at too complex a level for most beginners, and it causes problems for many people. At whatever level you're at, do the practice according to your level. But as soon as you start feeling pain or discomfort or injury, then the yoga stops and the problems start.
Beautiful. My martial arts grandmaster, Masaki Hatsumi, who's a living legend in Japan, he always says this: train what you have to train and teach what you have to teach.
That's good.
He said the two need not match always.
Yes, yeah.
So you have to train at your level and teach at the level of the student.
And if you've got the way yoga was traditionally taught, it's one teacher, one student.
That's right.
Then it's really easy for the teacher to see the level of the student.
And assess what they need at that point of time.
And give them whatever they need. But nowadays, modern yoga is not taught that way. Nowadays, to make it financially viable, you have to have one teacher and any number of students, which can be in a gym, it might be 80, 90 people.
That's right.
But they're all at different levels.
True.
So how can you teach one thing to many different people who are all at different levels? And so what I find myself teaching is the best thing for most people, most of the time, on a physical level, physiological
like
level.
Like a lowest common denominator.
Lowest, yes, yeah, it has to be lowest, and otherwise you cause problems.
Yeah.
I teach people the best possible thing which gives the best possible results on a physical level, physiological level, mental level, but not so they feel good after the practice. They've got to feel good while they're doing it. True. Otherwise they're not going to come back to it. And they've got to feel good immediately afterwards, like, for the rest of the day. But they've also got to feel good the next day.
To come back again.
To come back again. And over the next few weeks. I'll call that the short-term future. But if it's not sustainable, if they're not able to keep doing it for a lifetime, then it's not going to help them. Sure. And many practices that people did in the 80s now, that we're realizing that they didn't lead to good long-term physical or physiological results. But when you're teaching a big group, there's actually not that much you can teach without risking injuring some people on a physical, physiological or mental level. But if it's a specific group, if you know that the group is more refined, obviously you can teach more. But if you're just picking random people off the street, it's a lot harder. And what we find is that if you pick 100 people, or if you pick 200 people randomly off the street and say, would you like to try some yoga? 100 people say no straight away. Because just the thought of it already turns people off. Right. But if you get 100 volunteers, so we're going to try yoga for the first time, statistics from all over the world suggest that if people try the first modern yoga class, 100 people try it, 50 will never come back after the first class. And of the 50 remaining, only 45 are left by the end of the first year. So unfortunately, the way yoga is being presented to the world, in the modern world, only 1 out of 20 take it on board.
It's pushing people away rather than
most
bringing
people.
them in.
And I think that's because most people are presenting yoga as overstretching, over-tensing, over-breathing, overthinking, and that's blocking.
Overeating.
Yeah, and overeating. It's blocking the essence of this moving good energy and loving information through the body. And I think if we just went back to that what the essence of philosophical yoga is, the sense that we're trying to recognize we're all collected as one family and make that happen inside yourself first, then I think more people would come back to yoga.
Beautiful.
But the techniques are missing. And I've been lucky enough to have good teachers who have taught me some sensible techniques, and it's these techniques I'm trying to share. But it's difficult to share them with people and call it yoga. It's like difficult to share meditation also, because people perceive meditation to be sitting in a boring position, doing an uncomfortable thing for a long period of time. They see yoga as being to do something like stretching or tensing in places which people don't like. So it's a challenge, but
if you want to see some of these teachings, make sure you follow Simon on Instagram. Look for Simon Synergy. I'll put up the link below here. You can also check out his website, which is simonsynergyyoga.com.
I've got yogasynergy.com.
Yogasynergy.com.
I've also got a personal website called simonborg-olivier.com, and I'd love to share things with. If anyone writes to me, I will actually send you a link to some of the things that I teach that I believe are more accessible, safe, effective yoga for most people. And if you want, I can teach you difficult yoga as well. But for most people, safe, accessible yoga, I have a simple set of spinal movements that you can do, a simple set of postural practices that people could do at their office and stuff like this, which I think lead to a fairly good result.
So through all your videos and all your teaching, I see this recurring theme of balance, where you take the extremities and bring them as close to each other as possible to find a certain state of equilibrium.
Yes.
And I see that this as the essence of most of your teaching, whether it's philosophical, whether it's physiological, whether it's postural, whether it's movement-based. What would you like to share about that?
Well, I think balance is the key. For me, balance is like saying satya. Because some people interpret satya as being don't tell lies. I think a better interpretation would be like it's honesty. But not honesty as if not telling the truth. Because, sometimes honesty can be very painful. If I have to be honest, you look really ugly in those clothes. You don't want to tell people that.
That's right.
So better tell what's coming out nice out of your head, that it's actually really nice to see you, even though you look ugly in those clothes. But
hey, you look nicer in the other dress.
That's right. Anything, but just say what is not going against ahimsa. So when I look at the word satya, I look at the idea of running an honest business. When someone runs an honest business, they give a good or services and they ask for a certain amount of return.
The intention is in the right place also.
Yes,
then.
And it's a balanced exchange of goods and services. And so when I look at honesty or satya, I call it balance. So when you're working with your body, don't just do things that are for your muscles and bones, which is the anatomy of your body. Also look at how it reflects and how it affects your physiology. In other words, don't go for something just because it looks good. It's got to feel good as well.
Exactly.
And so also it's got to feel good physically, physiologically, and mentally. I call that balance. But when you're out talking about even muscles and bones, many people talk about stretching the back of the legs and they talk about pulling up the kneecaps and tightening the front of the thigh. But really, shouldn't you also stretch the front of the legs and tighten the back of your legs? Look for balance. Many people in the modern world talk about pulling in your tummy and pulling the shoulders back and down. What about pushing out your tummy and pulling the shoulders forward and up? I like doing that. That feels good. And often we're always told to pull in the tummy, engage the core. What about really relax your abdomen? A nice Buddha belly goes a long way. Babies have their abdomen very relaxed. And don't just have your shoulders down and back. When you see children hanging on swings, they hang like this. Yeah. This is just as good. Look for balance in all the movements that you do, all the postures that you do, the way you act. Balance on all levels is really important.
I love it. I love the fact that we've spoken about everything from unified field of consciousness to scientific researches on how your body reacts to psychedelics. That's beautiful that we're covering such a vast range. As you know, I can ask so many more questions, but he's been graceful enough to give me this time in between his classes in Dubai. So I'm going to just say thank you for your time and for answering all my questions peacefully.
Such a pleasure.
But I'm not letting him go before we meditate
Short meditation.
together. So
okay.
Whatever you would
and you
like.
Want me to guide you through meditation?
Yes, please.
Well, if I have to guide anyone through a seated meditation, first of all, I'll say come to a comfortable position, which could be for you sitting on a chair, and usually a chair is a better position. Then I'll say make your spine as comfortably straight as you can. Maybe rest your hands on your knees or something like that. And it's good to make the spine elongated. And to do that, I'll suggest you push the sitting bones down. Move the top of your hips back and lengthen your lower back. Move your lower front ribs inwards and backwards and feel the skin of your upper back lengthening. Move your shoulders apart and relax your throat. Lengthen your fingertips, but check the fingers are free to move. In other words, you want to be lengthened and relaxed. And when you feel lengthened and relaxed, if you wish, close your eyes. So again, lengthen your trunk. Do that by pushing your sitting bones down, move the top of the hips back, lengthen your lower back. Move your lower front ribs inwards and backwards till you feel the skin of the upper back. Bring the head down and the neck back slightly so you feel the skin of the back of the neck. So first of all, bring your attention to lengthen the whole back of your body. Then keeping the back of the body long, lengthen and relax the front. To do that, relax your pelvic floor, relax your abdomen like a baby's belly. Lift the collarbone, but don't let the front of the ribs stick out. Then soften your armpits, lengthen your fingertips all the way to the tips, and then come into touch with the 12 bridges between conscious and unconscious. These are the places, like your diaphragm, which you can choose to control consciously, the same way we can choose to breathe into the abdomen, which uses the diaphragm, or the diaphragm is able to work by itself when you're asleep. So 11 other places like this include the pelvic floor, front, back, and middle. Relax your pelvic floor. They also include the connection between your hips and your toes, between your shoulders and your fingers. So lengthen from your sitting bones all the way to your toes, but check it feels like your legs are relaxed. Lengthen from the base of your neck all the way down to the tips of your fingers, but with your fingers lengthened, check the tips of your fingers can just gently move. Then still your fingers. Check your shoulders are apart, but the shoulders can also gently move. They're not tense. Then your neck. Check your neck is lengthened, but the neck is also able to gently move. Then still your neck, but always check it's not tense, not locked, always free to move. Then go to your salivary apparatus. Check your tongue is relaxed. Make some saliva briefly, then swallow it. And if you can't make saliva, probably you're too stressed. Then feel your jaw. Your jaw should feel relaxed, and to check it's relaxed, just gently move your jaw a little bit, like about to chew food. Then stop your jaw. Now check your lips are relaxed. Check your lips could gently move. They're not held tight. If your lips are tight, you're going to be stressed as well. Now check with your eyes open that you can blink a little bit. Close your eyes and check you could half blink. If your eyelids are tense, you're not going to be able to relax. Now check your inner eyes are also relaxed. When you're asleep, your eyes roll right backwards. And that, for most people, if they do it consciously, will make them tense. So in this case, relax your eyes. And just to help them relax, make your closed eyes look downwards first towards 6 o'clock, an imaginary clock face. Look upwards towards 12 o'clock. Look to the right side toward 3 o'clock and left side towards 6 o'clock. Then let the eyes roll a little bit, like an imaginary clock face. Roll clockwise, roll anti-clockwise. Then let the eyes just relax and allow them to roll upwards gently without tensing your forehead. Then once again, drop the hips, relax your abdomen, relax the pelvic floor, and focus on lengthening and relaxing. Lengthen and relax. And if you make your mantra lengthen and relax, it's a simple way of becoming in a state where you're here and now, inwardly peaceful, calm, still, and quiet in body, breath, and mind. Be here, be now, lengthened and relaxed and inwardly at peace. the act of lengthening and relaxing, when done effectively, can make blood flow through very easily through your body. And you begin to feel warm. And what you're looking for is a sense of sharing good energy and loving information through your body. You want to feel calm and comfortable. And eventually, when you get this message, it's a good message to share with everyone. Thank you very much. Such a pleasure to spend some time with you. Thank you very much for your attention, everyone. Have a very lovely day.
Thank you for watching Meditate with Anjaan. This was an episode with Simon Borg-Olivier, yoga teacher and pioneer of the yoga systems and present modern day yogi. Please like, comment, subscribe if you liked this video and if you'd like to see more. I know there's a lot of knowledge in this video, so feel free to scroll back and rewind and play and watch it as many times as you like, because this is something that you'll have to rewatch again to understand. Maybe you won't get it in the first shot. And also make sure you follow the journey towards my 1 million meditators. I'm promising to meditate with 1 million people, one person a day at least. I'd like to give you a small gift before we end. We've been to the Kumbh Mela, which is the big festival in India, which happens once in 12 years at each location. And we got this blessed by a sadhu, and it says Jai Shri Ram. And it's one of the saffron things which the pilgrims wear as they go to the Kumbh Mela. So I'd like to gift Simon this all the way from India with the blessings of the gurus, because his blessings are needed for us and especially for my journey towards 1 million meditators.
Thank you very much, Anjaan. Very, very nice. Yes, you really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if you write to me, I'll also send you some more dynamic meditation. Seated is nice, but also to move in a gentle way is also nice.
He also has amazing Facebook Live meditation, so make sure you check that out, where you can follow him while he's meditating, and it's completely visually guided, which means you don't need any words, if I'm not wrong.
Sometimes we think too much.
Sometimes we think too much, and thinking only leads to further thoughts. So beautiful. Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity.
Bless you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so
Is it okay?
Amazing.
Did you guys enjoy the meditation?
I was starting, but then I wanted to record it, so I so I missed on.
It's okay. It's a simple meditation. I have one on YouTube where I go through that in more detail. But for most people, seated meditation is quite hard, unless they're comfortable. Sitting on a chair is easy.
Is this the only interview where somebody's not asked you to do yoga poses?
There's been a couple, but I like sort of touch and move. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Your grandfather must be amazing.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
That was amazing. So nice.